could Chinese Communist Party-run China wage a silent war without firing a single shot? How could the CCP go about overtaking the world's critical port infrastructure, gaining access to the levers that run the backbone of the world's global trade machinery? How is mainland China neutralizing rival nations' defense capabilities using solely business and technology? Stick around and let's find out. With Chinese media firms designated as foreign missions in the United States and the CCP propaganda touting Confucius Institutes being shut down in succession, it seems the Chinese Communist Party's vehicles of export for their communist ideology are suffering some setbacks. Not to be deterred, the CCP moved to recently acquire nearly 100 strategically positioned ports around the globe in recent years. The objective? To develop its obvious political ambitions. And what might those ambitions be? In this case, it would be controlling the machinery that makes the global movement of goods and international trade possible. That would include control of ports, port logistics, and fleets of marine transport vessels that weave it all together. To date, the CCP has opted for soft power of state-controlled businesses instead of military aggression to expand its influence worldwide. Its most recent endeavor utilizes a China Ocean Shipping Company, COSCO, and others to do their bidding. Altogether, the CCP-controlled businesses have acquired a stake in 96 ports around the world, 5 of them in the United States, including Miami, Houston, Long Beach, Los Angeles, and Seattle. Among Europe's most powerful countries is Germany. In Germany, China Logistics Group acquired a 99-year lease to build a logistics center in the new Wilhelm commercial port. The port is coincidentally 3 miles from Germany's largest naval and logistical base, Heppensagroden. Heppensagroden is where Germany builds and maintains its Marine Corps ships, docks its submarines, and conducts joint exercises with NATO. After having strategically acquired these 96 ports worldwide, what's the next target on the CCP's list? China's Communist Party leaders have their sights set on the iconic and historic container terminal Tollenrod in Hamburg, Germany, positioning itself to acquire a 35% controlling share in the port's operations. Quote, "It's true that the container port Tollenrod is only a small part of the entire port of Hamburg. Yet, through this part, China can influence the trade and political direction of Hamburg Port," said the German economics minister Robert Habeck. Jan Nienemann, a logistics professor at the Hamburg School of Business Administration, told Newsweek, quote, "There is a high strategic dimension to taking a stake in a terminal," close quote, such as having a say over which ships come and go, when cargo is loaded and unloaded, and where it goes. Former chair of the Bundestag Foreign Affairs Committee, Norbert Röttgen, told reporters, quote, "This is a power play being sought and developed. In the event of a conflict, this power will be utilized by China," close quote. Maritime specialist Isaac Cardone is a Chinese linguist at the U.S. Naval War College on Rhode Island. He cautioned similarly, explaining China's numerous port acquisitions create, quote, "strategic strong points," where different kinds of power flow together, creating leverage. Let's look at the big picture. According to Clarkson's research, foreign trade is transacted via the global transport of goods. Of the various forms of transport, maritime shipping is the most meaningful to China. Shipping is fundamental to the global economy as more than 85% of all goods are transported by sea via international trade. With the Chinese acquisition of the world's key global port infrastructure, analysts are raising data security concerns, given that port and logistics operators handle large amounts of corporate, transport, and personal data in an increasingly digitized supply chain. According to Newsweek, what's to stop the CCP from installing China-made internet communications for direct access to local data, including government administration networks? Former British International Trade Minister Liam Fox and former U.S. National Security Advisor Robert McFarlane published an article in 2021 regarding CCP's stake in the 96 ports around the world. According to the report, the ports in key locations have an ability to impact maritime trade. This affords Beijing a strategic dominance that can be acted on without having to fire a single shot. Pinko, a former Israeli intelligence officer, in an interview with Voice of America, explained these ports are easy targets to collect naval intelligence. He says, quote, "You can track the whereabouts of ships and communications. Once you own and operate the port site, these are very easy to do. You can do whatever you want. You are the landlord there," close quote. In 2013, Chinese leader Xi Jinping proposed the strategic idea of the 21st century Maritime Silk Road. This Maritime Silk Road is intended to connect a network of ports across the globe, from China's coast to the Indian Ocean, the South Pacific, and even Europe. Xi has since then made port visits across China a part of his annual to-do list. In a perfect storm following pressure by the European Union and International Monetary Fund to raise money toward the repayment of Greece's vast mountains of debt, Greece was forced to sell the beloved port of Piraeus. CCP-controlled COSCO picked up a 51% controlling share of Piraeus in 2016. The iconic Greek port is known as, quote, the Port of Three Continents, a massive and historic port at the crossroads of Europe, Asia, and Africa. Since China controls the lion's share of the world's exports and consolidated all Chinese-owned shipping companies into the state-run COSCO, it dictates the success of ports worldwide. The Port of Piraeus' commercial success since the acquisition gives a false sense of security to those who say concerns over Chinese ownership are overblown. In 2017, Panama joined the bandwagon, ditching the historic support of Taiwan for an economically favorable relationship with China. While China doesn't own the Panama Canal connecting the Pacific to the Atlantic, it has the next best thing: a stake in 3 of the 4 major Panamanian ports. In 2018, China also funded a $1.4 billion bridge project spanning the Panama Canal, fully backed by Chinese loans. COSCO Shipping also acquired a 60% stake in the port of Chancay, Peru, and acquired a stake in 61 ports in 30 African countries. In the Middle East, the CCP, via state-run COSCO, now owns ports in Morocco, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, the United Arab Emirates, Oman, and now even owns ports in U.S. allied Israel. According to the United Nations Conference on Trade and Development, China ranked 3rd after Greece and Japan, with 6,896 ships, or 129 million in total deadweight tonnage. It is no mystery the CCP sees its Chinese ocean-going vessels as, quote, mobile territory and, quote, fortresses of warfare. Despite the obvious intentions and political leadership behind COSCO Shipping, the company purports itself the typical modern-day business partner when transacting with non-Chinese entities. For those not paying attention, former chairman and party secretary of COSCO Shipping, Shu Lingrong, goes about boasting how the company is, quote, sailing for the motherland with, quote, the party's flag as our Chinese flag and the party's direction as our CCP's direction, close quote. According to a report in October last year by the Guoming Daily, the state-run media for Central Committee of the CCP, COSCO was established in 2016 in accordance with, quote, the implementation strategy of the major decisions of the CCP Central Committee, close quote. What does that mean? It means it was one of the first enterprises to include the requirements of the CCP leadership and guidelines into the company's Articles of Association. As a company, COSCO has 205 Chinese Communist Party committees and 144 Chinese Communist Party branches. It can therefore rightfully claim that its fleets are the floating homeland and that the CCP organization is the, quote, company's soul. COSCO can therefore legitimately claim, as it has, that, quote, with a party organization on board, each ship has become a strong fortress of war, close quote. According to a list obtained by the Epoch Times, at least 40 offices of COSCO have party branches, including COSCO Houston, with 29 party members, COSCO New York, with 23 party members, and COSCO France with 42, COSCO Holland with 24, and COSCO Piraeus with a whopping 64 party members. China hasn't tried to disguise its military use of marine vessels. Recently produced CCP state television videos plainly narrate testing on how, quote, to use civilian transportation resources to execute military tasks, close quote. The footage showcases trainloads of military vehicles and troops boarding vessels headed out to sea toward the Taiwan Strait. Along with the acquisition of ports in various countries, it's not surprising the CCP has also taken a liking to buying up land near U.S. military bases. In 2021, Shandong-based Chinese food processing leader Fufeng Group acquired 370 acres of farmland north of Grand Forks, North Dakota. It's doubtfully a coincidence that the site is less than 20 miles from the Grand Forks Air Force Base, known for its top-secret drone technology. It is likely no coincidence either that since 2016, GH American Energy, a subsidiary of China-listed GH Energy, has been acquiring large tracts of land in Valverde County, Texas, to build wind turbine plants. These fields of wind turbines are less than 20 miles from Laughlin Air Force Base. If we look at the owner of GH Energy, Sung Wenxin, he is known for being the, quote, richest man in Xinjiang, close quote, and served in the People's Liberation Army for nearly 10 years. If that's too close for comfort, then let's switch our attention to the heart of the U.S. capital of Washington, D.C. In 2017, the Chinese regime proposed spending $100 million to build an ornate Chinese garden, including a pagoda at the National Arboretum. Counterintelligence officials observed that the pagoda would be strategically placed at the city's highest points, only 2 miles from the U.S. Capitol. No doubt an ideal place to gather intelligence, according to a July 23rd report by CNN. Following Huawei's rather large acquisitions of land in the U.S., the FBI discovered something rather suspicious. The Huawei cell towers located on the Huawei-owned land happened to be in close proximity to rural Midwest U.S. military bases. It was then the FBI determined the Huawei equipment placed in the adjacent cell towers were capable of capturing and disrupting Defense Department communications. What's really so special about Defense Department communications in the Midwest? Well, considering the fact that the Defense Department oversees nuclear weapons, Huawei's cell towers would be capable of interfering with U.S. nuclear weapons communications. Between cornering the market on trade and the movement of goods around the planet, and strategic ownership of geography in proximity to national defense organizations around the world, China is powerfully positioned to execute its communist agenda without the need for a kinetic military confrontation.